Okay, shalom. Right, this is an utterly phenomenal teaching. I am so glad in my life I've been able to put this together. I was going to do something on the 9th of Tibet, but I didn't quite have time to get that together. That is going to come sometime in the future, hopefully. But this, the wisdom of the sages, what was written by Vilna Gaon in Kol HaTorah, incredible wisdom for us, by the way. It's just a matter of decoding it and discerning it correctly. Let's go and have a look at this. This truly has blown my mind. So basically, you've got the book Kol HaTorah, which outlines all the aspects of Mashiach ben Yosef that we've got to look for and implement, and all this other real wonderful guidance regarding the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. So it's from the book Kol HaTorah. You can get it for free on Sfaria. This is taken from section 250. It's called The Wisdom of the Scribe Shall Stink, and basically it is the 50th aspect out of 156 aspects, according to Vilna Gaon, regards Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay, so this is the 50th. 156 is the gematria for Yosef. That's why he's got 156 aspects that all describe different appellations, or are different appellations for Mashiach ben Yosef. It's an incredibly important book. Anyway, this is what's written: The Wisdom of the Scribe, see Tikkun Zohar, Tikkun 70. I've just copied it here from my book. The Wisdom of the Scribe, see Tikkun Zohar, Tikkun 70, the Gaon's commentary there. One of the matters listed by our sages as connected with the footsteps of the Mashiach is that the wisdom of the scribes will stink. That's taken from Talmud, Sota 49. I've done teachings on that. If you go search for Vilna Gaon, you'll find the teachings that I have already done on this concept of the wisdom of the scribes will stink. I'm not going to go through this lesson. I'm going to go through this verse here, verse 9-10. It's so important. The Gaon explains in Tikkun Zohar, this refers to the wisdom in gematria hints, and thus to the action and reasoning. So this is what we're going to be looking at. I've talked about the gematria hints previously. We're going to be having a look at this verse in Ecclesiastes 10 that the Vilna Gaon has indicated to us. The Vilna Gaon in his commentary left very brief and elusive notes that basically nobody can decode. A very rare set of people are able to interpret what exactly the Vilna Gaon was talking about. He had such a comprehension that we can't possibly understand. His level of thinking was so elevated, it's difficult to understand. But he's left us clues. So we at our level can go in and decode those clues that he's left, and this is what we're doing in this lesson, to figure out, well, what is he talking about, this wisdom of the scribes shall stink, and how is that related to Mashiach ben Yosef? It's incredible. It's incredible. It's such wisdom. It's such wisdom. It's like it's like opening up a whole secret world, and diving into these secret worlds of the sages and seeing a glimpse of what they potentially saw, and being illuminated, and your soul being illuminated with this wisdom. It's wonderful. So, commentary of the Gaon in Tikkun Zohar, page 5. This is just giving you the sources if you wanted to then go do further study. Tikkun Zohar is not translated into English completely, by the way, so just bear that in mind. There has been attempts, I do so believe, but as far as I'm aware, there is no complete translation of the Tikkun Zohar. Yeah, it is a very important book. Tikkun Zohar is the commentary on the first word of the Torah, Bereshith. 70 separate interpretations on that word. So, that are revealed by Mashiach ben Yosef. So the gematria hints, and thus action and reasoning, Ecclesiastes 9:10, that are revealed by Mashiach ben Yosef. This is the mission of Rabbi Eliyahu, who's the Vilna of Gaon, the light of Mashiach ben Yosef, who, as is known, suffered greatly from derision regarding this. He was the Mashiach ben Yosef of the generation. He wasn't the millennial Mashiach ben Yosef. I've talked about this a lot. So what is he talking about in terms of the wisdom of the scribe shall stink? He also gave commentary regarding this whole concept of the wisdom of the scribes will stink. He outlined the aspect of, or the concept of, the Torah of Moshe being in exile. this current this current Erev Rav dominated exile, where the Torah of Moshe has descended into a level of exile that makes it very difficult to interpret the truth of the Torah of Moshe. Okay, we will get to all these concepts. So before I go any further, I want to just refresh what that concept of the Torah of Moshe in exile, because people don't know about it. They think you're talking about something alien, because they are so convinced that the Torah that they've got is the truth, that they're not aware of the concept that this, what you've grabbed a hold of, that you're calling the truth, is the Torah of Moshe in exile. And you need to divest it from that exilic influence if you want to say this is the truth. Okay, so got to go and have a look at this concept. Where does it come from? So first of all, whatever your hand attains to do, as long as you are with your strength. Do, for there is neither deed nor reckoning, neither knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. So we're going to come back and have a look at that verse in the Gematria and see how incredibly awesome it is, and relevant, and the depth of the depth of the wisdom that's hidden in this for us to have it to reveal to us, so that we can see a bigger picture. Right, so let's go and have a look at this Torah of Moshe in exile. So this is what the Vilna Gaon said in Evan Shlemer. It says, the Haggadah on the surface appear as wasted expressions, God forbid, yet within them are concealed all the secrets. This is alluded to in the verse, and he is afflicted because of our sins. That's from Isaiah 55:3. This passage, behold my servant will prosper, and he is afflicted because of our sins, is referring to Moshe. It's referring to the Moshiach. The intention is that due to the sin of the bitter waters, Me Mareva, it was decreed upon Moses that the Torah of Moses, his holy teachings, would be desecrated by being clothed in forms such as these superficially strange Aggadic tales, as what is found in the Talmud. In fact, a quarter to a third of the entire Talmud, Aggadic tales, which have given a place for the scoffers in each generation to belittle them. It's also given people reason to believe that is a revelation in of itself of the God of God, the creator of heaven and earth. And really, and a revelation, these Aggadic tales reveal God when in fact they conceal him. And that's been a problem, because you see, the God that you think is revealed is like a golden calf, and you are literally sacrificing to a God that is not the true God of heaven and earth. You're interpreting the story wrong. You're getting it wrong. You're creating a God out of that impression that these stories are imposing on you. And you see that impression that you're creating, that you think is then God, is not God. And this is the problem with the Aggadic tales. They excite within us ego. And then the ego creates separation and chaos instead of unity and harmony and shalom. And a false sense of superiority instead of humility. So let's go on. This is what Moshe petitioned from God, not to conceal the secrets of the Torah in these forms, but it was not granted to him. This is the matter of Moses' death and his burial outside of the land of Israel. In the future, the secrets within them will be revealed, and this is the new Torah that will be revealed in the future. Vilna Gaon, Evan Shlemer. Also, Moses' burial place will be revealed. Okay, it's all revealed in the Gematria. I've talked about this a lot. But anyway, that's a different lesson. So that's taken from a book called The Secret Doctrine of the Vilna Gaon, Volume 2. It's not just there, however. Lashem had something to say about it. Rabbi Shlomo Eliashiv says, Lashem Shevo Ve'achlama. Okay, now consequent, these are 3 stones, by the way, in the breastplate, I do believe. Lashem Shevo Ve'achlama. Okay, I've just realised that by the word achlama I just realised they're 3 stones, pretty sure, in the one of the rows of the breastplate, the holy breastplate. So now, consequent to the fall of Adam, the external forces have control of the emanations of the light of knowledge that descends below, and this is the exile of the Torah. Therefore, the Torah has become clothed in this world in garments and foreign clipot shells that are not befitting her nor comely to her. In the same manner, there are numerous agadot of the sages which are difficult to even listen to, and one's sensibilities are astonished at them. Yet within them are hidden the secrets of the Torah. The exile of the Shekinah, the exile of the people of Israel, and the exile of the Torah are all due to the original fall of Adam. So they're all due to his da'ath falling from his place in the skull down into his flesh. And once that da'ath, the capacity to know God, knowledge, da'ath, is fallen from the place of our skull down into our flesh, we've got them problems when it comes to interpreting reality. We're going to interpret them egotistically and through our basar, through our flesh. We need liberation from that. What liberation? Well, we need the good news, the basaroth tovoth. Okay. The herald. The Torah of Moshe in exile. This is another part. This is actually written in the Talmud to some degree. There's a lot more beauty and depth in this than just this, because there's the verses that it's mentioned as well are extremely mystical. So there's a lot of mystery in this, but there's a connection to this concept of the Torah of Moshe in exile. That's what I'm saying. But really, you could delve a lot into this. There's some real beauty. And something even more profound than what I'm saying. This is connected to this and other concepts where they're challenging particular verses from Scripture. Okay. And yet hidden in those verses that they're challenging is just light beyond measure. Just wisdom and, really profound, wonderful stuff in the places where you'd least expect to find it. So there's a little bit of that involved in this, I do believe. I'm not going to go into that today. Let's just focus on the Torah of Moshe in exile. So the Gemara cites another statement related to the Avim. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says there are many verses that are seemingly fit to be burned as books of the heretics, since they appear redundant or frivolous, and yet they are themselves the essence of Torah. For example, the verse states, and the Avim that dwelt in villages as far as Gaza, the Kaphtorim that came forth out of Kaphtor destroyed them and dwelt in their stead. So that's from Deuteronomy 2:22. What practical difference does this make for us? And that's from Hullin 60b. That's taken off Safari.org. So again, this is getting us to question, the way that we interpret the Torah. Okay, so it's in exile because it's a mystery. We read this. What does it mean? Well, at the surface level, maybe not so much, but there's hidden light in there, and it's for us to toil to reveal that hidden light. Okay, and it's in exile until we do. What's in exile? Well, it's in exile of our own conscious minds, because we are small-minded and ignorant, and we've got to develop broad-mindedness and illumination. Knowledge of God. So now this gets exciting. This starts to get exciting now. So this is the whole verse from Ecclesiastes 9:10. It says, whatever your hand attains to do, as long as you are with your strength, do, for there is neither deed nor reckoning, neither knowledge nor wisdom in the grave where you are going. God forbid. Ecclesiastes 9:10. And I mean, God forbid, where you are going. I don't want any of us to be going into the grave just yet. Right, so this is one of the key parts that links back to what Vilna Gaon said in his book called Hator. For there is neither deed nor reckoning, neither knowledge nor wisdom in the grave where you are going. So it's got this gematria, regular gematria, of 3083. Okay. There's this whole concept of there being 3 books that's represented, one by the stone tablets, and we're going to delve into this it's incredible. It's incredible. It comes back again. There's always this unity of three. You know, there's like these three books that are represented in the Holy of Holies by the stone tablets in the ark, the jar of manna on the outside of the ark, and Aaron's rod on the outside of the ark. So these are really three books, and the three books talked about in Sefer Yetzirah. I hope you stay with us for this, because the stuff that Sefer Yetzirah reveals to us gives us some indication of what we should be doing and the problems that we face when it comes to creating shalom out of all the entropy and all the chaos that we've been given, all the negativity transforming into positivity, all the probability, all the possibility, and transforming that into certainty. You know, there's a process involved, and these three books represent 5 dimensions ultimately: the 3D of time, of space, the 4th dimension of time, and the 5th dimension of the spiritual world. They've got to unite together as one. Okay, and it takes a lot of objectivity in order to do that, and a lot of analysis to collapse all the entropy in the system, in this system in which we have been born, especially this exilic system. It's difficult to get to use the wisdom locked in these three books in a way that helps solve some of the mysteries of this entire matrix in which we are currently living, and to reveal the underlying unity and the underlying shalom from that chaos and uncertainty. Okay, it gets really interesting. Bear with it, it's wonderful. So how's this then related to 3 books? Okay, so when I talk about the stone tablets, the jar of manna, and the Aaron's rod, really they're representing 3 main aspects of Mashiach. You've got Moshe, the stone tablets, Mashiach ben Yosef, the jar of manna, and you've got Mashiach ben David, the Aaron's rod. And then you've got 3 main Abrahamic faiths that have 3 main books. So you've got the Torah, you've got the New Testament, and you've got the Quran. And those 3 Abrahamic faiths both reveal and conceal. They're the equivalent to the tree of knowledge at this time, but hidden within them is the tree of life to some degree. Okay, so they're all books that have got a lot of truth in them, but at this time there's also other influences involved in all those 3 books, and we've got to work together to reveal the light and to disregard that that's dark, or to reveal the good and reject the bad, or reject the evil. And we've got to get to a stage where we're working together ultimately, you know. So those 3 books then, that are represented by the stone tablets, the jar of manna and Aaron's rod, that are Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David and Moshe. That is the bird of redemption. The body of the bird is Moshe. Left wing is Mashiach ben Yosef. Right wing is Mashiach ben David. Left wing is joy, right wing is love. We want redemption. You want to fly out of here in full flight. You're going to have both those aspects, love and joy in your service to Hashem Yotewahwe. It's all glorious stuff. So 3083. These, I've pointed this out in previous teachings, by the way. There's a catchphrase, if you like, a key that basically unlocks the entire of those 3 books. You know, there's a catchphrase, if you like, or like, you know, like you stood before that cave and you say open sesame. The thing that opens it up, you know, the password, if you like, to accessing those 3 books. And it doesn't matter how complex and rich they are, and out the depth and profundity. When you analyse it enough, you come across 3 catchphrases or passwords, if you like, or just portals through which we can unlock, hidden in there, like the first word of Bereshit, for example, the first word of the Torah itself. it's just as we were looking at the Tikkun Zohar, it's a catchphrase, it's a password. It enables you to access. It enables you through that word to access so much of the hidden wisdom within the Torah. Okay, it's a very highly condensed way of accessing an unimaginable depth. And these three phrases, what I'm going to speak next, they work like that. If we understand the depth of them, what they say, we would be able to find the whole of the Torah written in them in some way, or it's certainly the main purpose of the Torah or the New Testament or the Quran. Okay, so the epitome of the wisdom to be found in these three books. The first one is this. So this is the Torah of Moshe. This is what Korach, according to the sages, spoke. He was swallowed down whole into the pit, and according to some stories, Agadic tales, this Korach went down into the pit alive. And these Arabs found this particular location where Korach at certain times still cries out from this pit. And what he cries out is, Moshe emet uwe Torah to emet. Moshe is true and his Torah is true. Okay? Stone tablets. The true Torah. Not the Torah in exile. The true Torah. And from whose mouth is this spoken? The very rebel that rebelled against Moshe. And there's all kinds of significance in that. I've done a lot of teachings on Korach. You might want to find out a lot more about him. There's mysteries involved in the reason why Korach speaks these words. It's because he wanted to change the order of the entire tree of life. He wanted to get rid of the middle pillar. So rather than, Tifereth, Yesod and Malkuth, he wanted Malkuth to attach to Gevurah. It's all Kabbalistic things that I aren't fully aware of at all. I can only understand it briefly. There's a lot of mystery involved because Korach, there's another item also in the Holy of Holies, the holy anointing oil is also in there. So that makes you think there's another book. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the supposed author of the Zohar, was called the Holy Anointing Oil. So there's something about that. It's quite mysterious. And the fact that Shmuel was descended from Korach, and Shmuel was the one who's equivalent to both Moshe and Aaron. So there's all kinds of mysteries involved in this. And the Psalms 98 tell us this. The ones that we set Kabbalat Shabbat, you're talking about Moshe and Aaron and Shmuel. I'll just read it because it's really important and it tells you about a level of prophecy that we've got to reach. Shmuel is a key prophet, and we've got to have understanding one because he was the one who anointed both Saul and David. Let me just read it. There's an equivalence between Moshe and Aaron and Shmuel, and the Psalms reveal this. Korach was aware of it, that's why he rebelled, because he could perceive that his seed would go on to be Shmuel. So there's all kinds of mysteries involved in it, but basically Moshe is true and his Torah is true, uttered from the mouth of Korach, and all the mystery that's involved in that is the true Torah. You'll find the true Torah in there. The true Torah of Moshe, divested of exile, lays in looking at this particular place for it. Sorry, it's Psalm 99. So the last psalm that is said of all the Shabbat psalms. And it's Moshe and Aaron were among his priests, and Shmuel among those who invoke his name. This is a very, very significant level of prophecy that we've got to attain or try and re-establish. Those who invoke his name, it's not an insignificant thing, it's a very, very powerful thing. They called upon Hashem and he answered them. So the fact that you've got Moshe and Aaron together amongst his priests and Shmuel, the sages say that gives some equivalency between Moshe and Aaron together and Shmuel. So we can see how significant Shmuel is, Samuel. Okay, so it's all wonderful stuff. It's all connected to this because Korach, he descended from Korach. Right, so we've got this then. This is the first book, the Stone Tablets. This is a catchphrase or a password to unlock the truth of the Torah of Moshe, not within exile, outside of exile. That's linked up to here. Well, we'll see how it's linked up. The bread from heaven, the manna from heaven, the true gospel, the true Basaroth Tovoth, good news that the herald brought to us. The true gospel, not necessarily, well, definitely not what we've got now. This is a corrupted version. I've talked about this in the last lesson, and we're talking about it again when I start to go on about the fast of the 9th of Tibet. So the jar of manna, the true gospels, is basically the catchphrase to unlock that true gospel is this: Yosef is still alive. Od Yosef Chai. Okay? It is really quite phenomenal. It's the epitome of the entire good news. This is the truth that helps us to overpower the forces of Esav, to subdue Esav completely to the side of holiness, and to transform him from evil into good. It's the power. When we totally and absolutely understand and fully comprehend these words in their entirety, Od Yosef Chai, and what that actually means, that is the true gospel. That is the true power to subdue the forces of exile. The true gospels, to overcome Esav, overcome Amalek completely. So that comes to an ordinal of 92, by the way, which is Moshiach ben Dawid. So there's the seed of Moshiach ben Dawid within the Gospels. 193, by the way, times 2, 386, I do believe, Yeshua. Let me just check that. Yes, so that is Yeshua. So whichever way you look at it, you've got this interweaving going on. Right, so finally, the last revelation from the perspective of the rod of Aaron, the priesthood, and also Moshiach ben Dawid is, and it's also the true Quran, the true Keren, the true horn of salvation. It's all connected to King David. Is Ein Od Milvado. Right, there is nothing beside him, and all these are levels of consciousness that we've got to attain. We've got to attain this level of consciousness as if we were Korach that went down into the pit alive and has reached this conclusion that Moshe is true and his Torah is true and everything that's associated with that, and also Yosef is alive. And then this is the final level of consciousness, a consciousness that heralds, ushers in messianic consciousness of King David. It's Ein Od Milvado. There is nothing beside him. Once we reach that level of consciousness and awareness that there's only Yod He Waw, we're not wrestling anymore with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There's only Yod He Waw. That means there's only good. We've attained that knowledge that there's only good. There's only him. Everything has got a good purpose. Everything has got a good end. There's no real evil in and of itself. Ein Od Milvado. We've got to defeat a lot of the remaining Canaanite enemies. This symbolises 3, the Ein Od Milvado. It's related to a verse. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's related to a verse. But basically, the verse is a coded message for 3 remaining enemies of the children of Israel. The Edomites is the initial letter Ein. Of Ein is Edom, Edomites. Od is the Ammonites, and Milvado is the Moabites. And these are the last sort of that King David will finally defeat these forces and bring dominion into the Holy Land. Okay, to bring complete dominion over these foreign forces in the Holy Land. There will only be then nothing beside him, nothing beside Yod He Waw. It's all very, very beautiful stuff. But this is really connected to the true Quran. The true message of the Quran should bring us to that level of consciousness in Od Milvador. Where is the true Quran at this time in this world? We don't have it. We've got to take the Quran that we've got and reach a level of wisdom where we're able to go and have a look at that and decide what part of this is the truth and what do we need to discard. Okay? 82 here is the ordinal of Mashiach ben Dawid, and in Od Milvador 1, 70 and 40 come to 111, which is Aleph. You know, so there's all kinds of significance in that. But the 3 books upon which the whole world is created, according to Sefer Yetzirah, and we're going to have a look at this next. It's incredible stuff, honestly, wonderful. When you go link this up to the concept in Sefer Yetzirah, it gets even better. So all 3 together, if we add all 3 of these up together, the regular and the ordinal, that is, it comes to 3083, which is 441st prime number from 2. So it's basically the 441st prime number, the way that we normally count prime numbers. When I usually write prime numbers, I do it from a Hebraic point of view, which is counting, including 1 in the prime numbers, but mathematically 1 is not included as a prime number. So 441 means Emeth, truth. Emeth, 441. So this is the truth that's hidden in all the Torah of Moshe, the New Testament and the Quran. Okay? And that links us up to here. For there is neither deed nor reckoning, neither knowledge nor wisdom in the grave where you are going. And this is all linked to the wisdom of the scribes shall stink. We have got to remove the stench, that evil influence of man that has contaminated these true books, the truth that was revealed, that take away the contamination, the negative influence that all these books have been subject to because of Edomite slavery, you know, and because of the fall of Adam, the fall of our knowledge down into our flesh. Right, so let's have a look at Book of Sefer Yetzirah. So got these 3 books. This is really, really incredible stuff. So 3 books. The Sfiroth are the way that God communicates to us, which he has done. So there's 3 meanings to the word Sephiroth, you know, as in the Sfiroth, the tree of life. Okay, so each of the 10 Sfiroth, which are the way that God communicates to us, you know, through Da'ath, knowledge, through Chokhmah, wisdom, through Bina, understanding, through Tifereth, his name, Yod-Heh-Waw, essentially, or beauty, through Yesod, foundation, righteousness, through Malkuth, which is kingdom. You know, there's all kinds of wonderful ways that God communicates through these Sfiroth, but there's also 3 meanings to this Sfiroth that represent, in a way, 3 books that I've just talked about. So the word Sefer can mean text, and this is related to the dimension of space. So it's the very form of the letters. These are all communicating to us, by the way, the very form of the letters. And I've done teachings about this before. The Hebrew had no form. It was an oral language. So it basically, if you go and have a look and do the research, some people, there is potential to reverse the actual, reverse the order on this. But when you really think about it, you think, well, that can't possibly be so, can it? So you go back and look at what Hebrew was originally written in. It was written in pictograms. These pictograms were Egyptian pictograms. There's evidence of it that these exact same pictograms were used by Egyptian. It was an Egyptian alphabet. And yet the very first Hebrew text is in this pictogram form. They basically used the alphabet of Egypt to write down in their Hebrew words. So, you know, Then it went on and developed over time to Paleo-Hebrew, which is essentially no different at all from Phoenician alphabet. So they'd first adopted the Egyptian, because they were probably in closer proximity to Egypt. And then once they got closer in proximity to the Phoenicians, they adopted the Phoenician alphabet. And there's progress, there's evolution along the way. And then finally, they adopted the Aramaic alphabet. This was something they adopted. Ezra adopted this particular script to be used as the holy text, the holy Hebrew script. So there, from Ezra's time, there was no more Paleo-Hebrew. There's no more pictograms. Hebrew, the Hebrew language, had adopted the Aramaic script, and it's still that script today. Okay? Certain forms of Aramaic text, not all Aramaic texts are the same, by the way. So the form of the letters have changed, and this is related to Moshe, the book of Moshe. It's related to the 3 dimensions of space. But we've got to bear in mind, now there are people that have concluded that the Egyptians copied off the Hebrew, the Phoenicians copied off the Hebrews, and then the Aramaics copied off the Hebrews or whatever. There is no evidence to suggest that was the case. What's more likely is Hebrew was an oral language that just so happened to use whatever script it was in closer proximity to. Okay, that's my interpretation of it. You can look at the history of it. It's a really beautiful history, but this is why numbers are so important, because it doesn't matter what the actual form of the letters were. The number would have been the same no matter whether it's pictogram, Paleo-Hebrew or Aramaic, because it goes on the order of the alphabet. So in a way, the numbers are much more consistent. They have never changed. They have always remained the same, whether it's whichever alphabet you've used. So text, so the 3 dimensions of space, therefore the form of the letters. Then you've got number. Sephir, as in Sephiroth, also means number. Safar. And this is related to year or time, like space and time. This is another dimension, what's called the 4th dimension. You've got 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time. This is the numerical value associated with words. Okay. And then you've got Sippo, which means communication and telling. This is connected to soul and spirit. This is the 5th dimension, the dimension of spirit. This is to do with the pronunciation and name of the letters. Now, a lot of the pronunciation has been lost, and when you go and have a look at like the Yemeni pronunciation of Hebrew, it's very close to a lot of the ways that Arabic is also pronounced, bearing in mind that this aspect of the books are related to Mashiach ben Dawid, and the revelation of Mashiach ben Dawid is more seen in the book of the Quran. Okay, so we might have to go back to if it's to do with pronunciation and name, we might have to go back to Arabic that's maintained possibly more authentic ways of pronouncing the Hebrew than even the Hebrew, like Sephardi and Ashkenazi ways of pronouncing the Hebrew. Okay, so it's all things that we've got to start to investigate, but these are things that we've got to start to consider that take us out of our own little boxes, and then we're going to come to a concept very soon that's so wonderful to see. It starts to let us unlock the cage that our own minds have created by limiting ourselves to one mindset that's generated from one book. If we want to think multidimensionally, if we want to explore things from higher and higher perspectives, we're going to have to appreciate all the wisdom that's been revealed to us. We're going to have to start to look into that to see what has been communicated to us, because God has been communicating to us, and it's not just in one way. So the definition of the word Sephira, the Hebrew designation for the divine emanations that form the basis of creation. The word for book, Sefer, has the same root as the word Sephira, except that the former is masculine and the latter feminine. These three books are said to be text, number and communication. So just gone through that. The Hebrew word for it's supposed to be text. Text here is Sefer, which literally means book. Number is Sephar, from the English word cipher. We've got to, decipher what is actually written. And communication is Sipor, which more literally is telling. So I've gone through that, and they're the three books: the Torah, New Testament, and Quran. They represent quality, quantity and communication, letters, numbers and the manner in which they are used. This is all taken from the book Sefer Yetzirah, which is supposed to be the oldest Kabbalistic text. Okay? They correspond to three divisions: universe, year and soul. So it was originally universe, year and soul, or world, year and soul. And in modern times, these would be called space, time and spirit. This is part of the commentary on the book of Sefer Yetzirah by Aryeh Kaplan. As we shall see, the Sefer Yetzirah speaks of a 5-dimensional continuum defined by the 10 Sephiroth. The first 3 are the dimensions of space, the 4th dimension is time, and the 5th dimension is the spiritual dimension. Okay? So that's all interesting stuff as well. And we've got to unite this. It's called a continuum. Continuum means there's a unity there. So they're not all independent of one another. There's a unity between these 5 dimensions, and we've got to start to experience and reveal that unity, that truth. What blocks us? Sheker. Where do we get the Sheker from? Well, you see these 3 books that you got? You didn't just get the truth, you got them dressed up in exilic layers, just as it said when what the Lashem was saying. They dressed up inappropriately. What with? Well, ego-inducing rubbish that you need to divest it from in order to attain humility. Because with the humility, you're going to bring unity. You're not going to go around bashing people over the head that you are right and they are wrong. This is the problem. Creates arrogance. And then we've got, since the 3 special dimensions comprise a single continuum, the 3 of them together constitute the first book. Time is the second book, while the spiritual hidden dimension is the third. And even the fact that in the Quran the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is hidden, it's called just God. But we know who it is really, that it's been talked about in the book. That's just one small thing. I mean, you could go on forever and ever along these same lines. So basically you've got the 3 directions, haven't you? Sorry, the 6 directions really that represent the 3 dimensions of time, of space. So you've got up and down, west and east, south and north, and then in the middle, this is taken from the book of Sefer Yetzirah, this is called the Aleph, or the Vav 0 point. That's what we would call the origin. Mathematically it's called the origin. Okay, it's all wonderful stuff. Let's read on, because there's even more interesting stuff. This is when we've got to start to learn, well, what's the problem then? What is the problem that we can't, why can't we then unite the wisdom in this that's hidden in these 3 books and disregard the evil? Because that is the problem, I'm going to talk about this in terms of an observation that I made. This is from a long time ago, and I've never shared this. This is inspiration that you get when you're meditating on these and considering. Sometimes the information is in the physical laws of nature itself. You can sometimes look to the scientists for inspiration, because everything on the outside is a form of, is a way that Yod-Heh-Wah is communicating to us anyway. So we can take these scientific phenomena and use them to understand the spiritual phenomena that we also face. Let's go and have a look at this. All right, so first of all, we're going to have a look at some more gematria. Again, these three, we need to get this very clear. We've just looked at the 3 books. Now we're going to look at another trinity, if you like, very significant trinity that's mentioned in the Rosh Hashanah Machzor, the Day of Judgment. Okay, so let's have a look at this then. So we've got this here. For there is neither deed nor reckoning, neither knowledge nor wisdom. So we're just taking a part of this here, and we've got some numbers here. What does this come to then? You see this 1437, the regular. It's the exact regular and ordinal. Sorry, it's the exact regular of Yeshua Sahapanim, Metatron, and Eliyahu. So this is a trinity, or a triad, if you like, that's very much associated with Rosh Hashanah, and it's actually written in the prayers for Rosh Hashanah. Why is the name Yeshua Sahapanim written in the Rosh Hashanah Machzor? Because it's Judgment Day, and you have got to access every provision that Yotewawhe made for our sins to be completely forgiven. And personal repentance does not forgive the sin of desecrating the holy name. And I spoke about this in the last teaching that I did. But however, the provision that was made for desecrating the holy name is Yeshua. The Mashiach ben Yosef is the provision made for desecration of the holy name. So if we don't access that on Yom Kippur, we don't access the provision made for desecration of the holy name. The only other provision within rabbinical Judaism for desecration of the holy name is death. We want life. We want to be written in the book of life. What's the only way we can access that according to the Torah of Moshe? Well, we have to accept the provision that Yotewawhe made for that sin. And I talk about it much more in depth in the last lesson that I did. So you have to access, you want forgiveness of sins on Yom Kippur, you have no choice. The sages knew they had no choice except to petition Yeshua Sahapanim. And that's exactly what occurs on Rosh Hashanah. They literally speak and petition Sahapanim, Metatron and Eliyahu, who is part of a prayer. Okay, they're done at the blowing of the trumpets, the blowing of the shofar. Okay, so what does that tell us? That tells us that there's a unity again between 3 concepts here. Yeshua Sahapanim, Metatron and Eliyahu. This is again Mashiach ben Yosef, Moshe, and Eliyahu precedes the revelation of Mashiach ben Dawid. You know, we say that at Havdalah. Eliyahu is the prophet that reveals Mashiach ben Dawid. He's very much associated with it. So we need this unity. It's exactly the same unity what we've just talked about in 3 books. And this again is related to this that Vilna Gaon gave to us. Let's go and have a look at this. This was a meditation that I did, totally unrelated to this because I didn't know the numbers added up. But this was a meditation that I did based on the 3 books. I'm going to go and then we'll come back and have a look because there's some incredible stuff related to this as well. But I just want to go to the next slide to go through that, to just show you what we're dealing with and how we can actually bring about a unity. And we can. There's loads of analogies that we can use. Let's go and have a look. So essentially we're stuck in this tree of knowledge reality. It's a run and return, it's ascent and descent. So sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. It's a wave function. You know, we're stuck on the wave function, and sometimes, you know, I always make this analogy, you know, I remember the first time I ever rode a wave. Everything in this created reality is like electromagnetic waves and everything like that. Now, just as you're out in the water, those waves can either come crashing down on you and hurting you. You feel the ebb and flow of life. You feel the ups and downs. You're just bobbing around, and there's not much control over that whole process. You're just like out at sea, suffering every bump, right? But if you look at surfboarders or bodyboarders, they are able to harness the power of that wave and help them to go on this epic journey. I remember it once happening to me. I've never surfed in all my life, and I don't think I don't envisage that I'm ever going to do it. You never know. My son's actually married. His wife is married to previously one of the world's. He's from it's Polynesian. He was one of the world's most famous surfboarders, and anyway, that's another story. But I've never personally surfboarded, but I am aware there's a lot of people that are able to do it to a very great skill indeed. I bodyboarded, so basically there's a wind, the waves are coming in, and it took me ages to get on board with this. I was like disappointed. The waves was coming past me, and you had to catch the wave. Anybody who's a surfboarder will know what I'm speaking about, but I was failing miserably. The waves was coming past me, and I couldn't jump on it at exactly the time. You had to get the timing right. You had to sort of perceive what was the time where you just launched yourself onto this so it would take you all the way into the shore. And I tried, and I was thinking, there's nothing in this. This is all made up stuff. It's not catching the waves. What is all this about? We're getting really quite disappointed, and I was thinking, oh, this is just, there's nothing in it. I'm wasting my time here. And then eventually I just jumped on this one wave, and I caught it. And I honestly... it pushed. I couldn't believe. I could feel the force of the wind dragging me on the bodyboard. I'm clung to the bodyboard, dragged me all the way into the shore till literally my legs were scraped along the sand, and I come to a halt. And then I was so exhilarated. I couldn't believe I'd ridden this wave. So there are different ways that we can actually ride waves. There are different ways of, we can either be suffering all the bangs and bumps of it and of every oscillation, or we're just riding on top of it and letting that carry us on an epic journey. It's going to invigorate us and thrill us and excite us and make us hungry for more. It just depends the way we play it. But unfortunately, sometimes we can get caught up with a wave collapsing down on top of us, and it's very unpleasant. I've probably don't bother reading that because I haven't even changed what it should say, but there's this concept of collapsing the wave function within physics, okay, and it's related to this concept called I'll just bring it up anyway. I'll read you through this bit. I've jumbled up. I think I must have cut some off here and there. A lot of this was based on meditation, so I'll have to read through it for you. Run and return, ascend and descend, collapsing the wave function. So really, we're wanting to collapse the wave function to reduce entropy. Let's get to that. So you've got this concept we've just had, haven't we? Yeshua happening, Metatron and Eliyahu. This is Metatron then. If you think about a Sudoku puzzle, you need to start to think like this, because a Sudoku puzzle really is a good way of allegorizing the work that we have to do in this world. So we've got a little bit of information, but we've got like little discrete boxes that all join together to form a bigger box. Okay, so you've got little boxes of 9 that then form a big box of 9 little boxes. Okay, and then within them little boxes you've got 9 further little boxes. Okay, you get given so much information, and then you've got to figure out the rest. So you imagine we're in this situation where we've got these constant wave functions that are creating a lot of chaos for us in our lives, creating a lot of chaos in this entire system. And just like Yeshua went and walked on the water to calm the waves down, we've got to reach that level where you see these waves that represent judgment, harsh judgment in this world, And that's what the Zohar tells us the waves represent. We've got to be able to like walk on that water, to collapse those waves down and, be like one who's walking on water. Or be like one who's like literally, riding out the wave in a good way. You're wanting to collapse that level of chaos. You wanted to collapse it down from something that's going to cause you harm to something equivalent to Yeshua walking on the water, where it's just nice and still and calm. Okay, it's a bit like a Sudoku game. Why is it like a Sudoku game? Because you start off with a lot of what's called entropy. There's a lot of chaos. You don't know which each of the little boxes mean. I'm pretty sure everybody who's looking at this has come across Sudoku puzzles, so know what I'm talking about. If not, go look it up. So the Metatron is really the unsolved Sudoku grid. It's the matrix, the tree of knowledge. It maintains the wave function, the ascent and the descent, the good and evil, the potential for good and evil, uncertainty, chaos, entropy. So you've got this Sudoku grid and it starts off unsolved. You've just got a little bit of revelation, if you like, a little bit to go on. But there's a whole lot of uncertainty. There's a whole lot of chaos. What's that, a number 9 or a number 4? You've got to work very hard to figure it out. And some of these grids are very, very complex and some are easier than others. Okay? What we tend to do, however, when we are trying to interpret reality, what we are trying to do is we're just caught up in this one little section and we think that that is the entire universe, and that the laws that apply around us and our immediate area apply to the whole picture. So we can be busy trying to determine what truth is in our little box, our discrete little box, and we might think we've got it all right. Okay, you take a step back and suddenly you realise, you see all them numbers, you haven't had a big enough picture to know whether you're right or wrong, because you see there's got some information on the outside that's going to prove that what you've got on the inside is wrong. Your perspective is narrow and limited, and you haven't taken into account some truth and revelation over here, so you're always going to be wrong. So you might think that you've sorted out your little corner. You've got some things right, you've got some things wrong. But when you think that you are just true, this is the truth according to our world perspective, that's where your problems lie. Because when you start to say, this is certainly the truth, when it's not, you've got sheka. You've got an illusion that you're believing is the truth, and you're battering everybody around you with this illusion that's not the truth. Now, if it were just a two-dimensional Sudoku puzzle, it's hard enough to solve. But when you go back, that the actual reality in which we are living is a 5D reality. So you see, the smaller minded we get, the more we believe that this little pocket of truth is the whole truth, the more wrong we are. Because we're actually not even aware of the entire of the dimensions. We only are living in 3-dimensional reality. And to get it right in a 3D Sudoku puzzle, I'll go and show you what one looks like. Okay, so I had a look at this guy. It's really, really fascinating, and it just goes to show the problems. This is a 3D Sudoku puzzle. I'm just going to try and, so you can see all the layers of the Sudoku puzzle. Right, and you start off and there's a lot of entropy. Now this guy is amazing the way he's able to solve this. I'm blown away. Like, I'm a maths teacher, no way can I work as fast as his brain works. And he takes like 2.5 hours to solve this 3D puzzle. This is incredible speed. Is the way that his mind works to collapse the entropy. So when he's going through it, he's telling you what are the possibilities of each of these squares, and sometimes there's more.
I can do a little.
Just wait a minute. I'm not gonna.
Little bit of with fives. One of these two must be a 5.
I'm dragging it wrong thing, aren't I? That's why. So he starts off and there's a lot of entropy. That means there's a lot of blank spaces, and each space has the potential to be a lot more numbers, because you've nothing else to go by. So you start off where there's lower levels of entropy, if you look here, for example, he's going to talk about it, and he's looking for places of much lower entropy, where there's much more certainty in certain numbers, and then he starts to build up and fill out those spaces from understanding the information that he's got that is certain. Okay? You know how Sudoku works, but look at this. This is 3D Sudoku puzzle. Look at where he gets to right at the end. It's incredible. The level, this is what happens. The more attention you pay to try and solve these problems in truth, not just to think your little pocket is right, but to go through it systematically and to resolve some of the issues that create sheker lies, or some of the things that we've said, oh no, this is the truth, when it isn't. We've been spoon-fed lies. Got to take a step back and say, oh no, that were a lie that we were told. Look at the level of speed which she goes through this at the end. After you've, fought against all this uncertainty that you face, like when you're coming to analysing the Torah, analysing the New Testaments, analysing the Quran, you're faced with there's a lot of uncertainty. And you're faced with this overwhelming level of uncertainty, but if you hack away at it, what little you definitely know, and start to plug those numbers in, you start to get to a situation where there's a lot less confusion. There's a lot less entropy, there's a lot less chaos, there's a lot less probability, there's a lot more certainty. You reach a level where it's just inevitable that you are going to solve that entire problem. You reach a place of inevitability where you have thrashed all the difficult stuff out that took a long time to resolve because there was a lot of blank spaces. But once you reach that, you've put the hard work in. It's just a process and a filling in the blanks. You do reach that level of confidence that you have accurately analysed this. And we have got the opportunity to be at that place now. Because we're right at the end of this space-time continuum, that is Moshe and Yeshua. We're right at the end of that. Going back to it says the 3 books, you've got the 3 dimensions, 3 of space and 1 of time. Well, in physics, they're on a continuum, space-time continuum. You can go look that up for yourself. There's got to be unity between Moshe and Yeshua. So in a way, the Mashiach can be, we understand it as a man, but the real Mashiach can literally be space and time. A unity of space and time. Well, what's the last element then? Well, the spiritual hidden dimension. That will come through Mashiach ben David. But we've got to get rid of the chaos to reveal that unity. I hope you're following what I say. So we get to a stage, look at this guy now, the speed with which he can collapse the wave function, collapse the probability down to reveal the certainty, collapse the separation to reveal the unity, collapse the chaos to reveal the shalom, collapse the evil to reveal the good. Look at here, from here on in, how fast he's able to do it.
We start here probably. Get that timer going. Start with a cool 9.
I hope you can pick that up
6
properly.
over here. With the 6, 5. What am I missing? 6 and 8. Yep, everything checks out. You know what? I think for the first time I'm finally going to look at these.
Right, so I'm not going to go on any further. If you want to have a look at that, but I hope you're catching what I mean. This is a 3D Sudoku puzzle. Imagine that puzzle being 5-dimensional. This is a very key number, by the way, because he talks about this at the end. 9 times 9 times 9 is 729. Okay, 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9, sorry, a 5-dimensional, hypercube or whatever, which is what we're talking about. 5-dimensional space-time continuum, space-time spiritual continuum would be 59,049, okay, which is actually related to this week's Torah portion. What does that tell us? It tells us that this is obviously like a key number. You've got some portals, like I said, on them phrases, them catchphrases, if you like. You've got some wisdom that acts like that opens up. That opens up to us and gives us access to that we're looking for. So potentially what I'm saying, when I looked at this and then I found that this is at that number that we would need for a 5-dimensional, to solve a 5-dimensional Sudoku puzzle, would be 59,049, and it came up in this week's Torah portion, Pekudah. What does Pekudah mean? It's related to redemption, isn't it? One of the first aspect of redemption is called Pekudah. The second aspect of redemption, the final redemption, is called Zekira. So there's all kinds of links to that. I will show you those verses actually that come to they come to a square ordinal. The reason why I did square ordinal is because we're dealing with like cubes and stuff like that. The square ordinal, the first appearance of the squared ordinal number to the value of 59,049 in whole verses is in Pekudah, and we'll go to that. So let's get rid of this. Okay, so this is an analysis tool, and as you can see, I've analysed the numerical value. It is actually my own second array, which is a particular filling out. I thought it was a squared value, but it isn't. The first squared value is related to Rebecca. Anyway, I'll show you that as well. But here, this is actually the first array of 59,000, which is 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. 5-dimensional Sudoku puzzle. The number of numbers you want to have to find would be 59,000 in order to collapse it. All the uncertainty, all the sheker within that system, it would be 59,049 little squares you would have to collapse. And that's the first one, Exodus 40:23. And as you can see, it's all highlighted in red. 33 up to 33. So it's all about, it's this week's Torah portion, Pekudah. This week's Torah portion is the two Torah portions that include Pekudah. So, and he set the bread in order upon it before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses, and he put the candlestick in the tent of the congregation over and against the table on the side of the tabernacle southward, and he lighted the lamps before the Lord, and the Lord commanded, as the Lord commanded Moshe, and he put the golden altar in the tent of the congregation before the veil, and he burnt sweet incense thereon, as the Lord commanded Moshe, and he set up the hanging at the door of the tabernacle, and he put the altar of burnt offering by the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation, offered upon it the burnt offering and the meal offering, as the Lord commanded Moshe. And he set the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and put water therein to wash withal. And Moses and Aaron his sons washed their hands and their feet thereat, when they went into the tent of the congregation, and when they came near unto the altar, they washed as the Lord commanded Moshe. Okay, which precedes this final verse here. And he reared up the court around about the tabernacle and the altar, and set up the hanging of the court gate. So Moshe finished the work, all the work. What work? Of building a tabernacle so God could dwell with us down here on earth. So there's a significance to it, isn't there? Because that's the ultimate goal of all humanity. We are down here doing a work to create a dwelling place for God himself to dwell down with us in physical reality, for spirituality to dwell with us in physical reality. We're building that. Okay, so how do we get there? Well, you see, we collapse all the entropy in the system that creates separation and chaos and hatred and negativity. We reveal the underlying unity and oneness and certainty and order. Okay, so let's go back and finish off what I was saying. I hope you find that interesting. Oh, what did I say that would do? Square value then. Let's look at this as a square value. No. Let's have a look. Just wait a minute. Might be that one, first array. So let me just show you what the first array is, because this is square values, I do believe. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 65, 81. Right, so square value, what's that then? Alright, so that's different. I know what that is now. Right, so mine is the ordinal square value. This is the regular square value. That's why there's problems. So this is what I programmed into it to return ordinal squared values. I was just making sure, because I saw a square value there and I'm thinking, I don't know what that's all about. Why is it not bringing it up when I do that? So this is square ordinal values, not square regular values. And the first one is there, look. And bring me venison. So this is Isaac to Esav. This is another part. So we need to understand there must be a very, very significant, profound reality hidden in these particular verses, because they add up to that 59,049. So here we've got from 7, I'm not going to read all that, I'm just showing you, 7 up till 15. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esav, which was with her. This is the whole deception. Isn't it Yaakov deceiving Esav? What have we been doing in the last 2,000 years? Deceiving Esav, to get him to deceiving our body, to get our body to serve our souls. Okay, we need that truth, Od Yosef Chai, in order to accomplish that. This whole Edomite exile is being Yod-Heh-Waw in a very mysterious way, bringing about all these revelations. It's all interesting, powerful stuff. Let's go back to finish it off. So, are we playing a big Sudoku puzzle? in an allegory, yes, we are. We are, because we're trying to reveal the underlying order in the chaos that we've been given. So Metatron is some ways the unsolved Sudoku grid, where there's still left a lot of entropy in it, a lot of chaos and uncertainty. So we start at the start of it. But when we battle against those forces to reveal more and more and more, so we've got entropy is defined as a measurement or degree of randomness, or in other words, it is the increase in the disorganisation, chaos within a system. So this is what you're the equivalent of the revolving sword that bars us from accessing the tree of life. Okay. Metatron, the grid through which chaos is maintained through lack of observation, and certainty is revealed by observation, analysis and testing. We need to collapse all the squares on the wave function grid of judgment to reveal the underlying certainty through observation. So if we just believe we're right when we're in fact wrong, what good are we going to do? What? We're just going to remain in a state of exile. We're not making progress if we just believe we're right and we're clinging to our little interpretation of the book that we've got or we've inherited. You've inherited lies. You need to start to look elsewhere to figure out just what bits are right and what bits are wrong. Just like the Sudoku puzzle, you can't just do one square and think that you're at the centre of the whole universe. You're not. We're a part of a whole system. It's 5 dimensional. It's much more complex than what you think. Sometimes it helps to be neurodivergent in this, because a lot of people think linear. They are very linear in the thinking. They need things to be in a very straight and organised way. You can't solve the levels of randomness and chaos thinking linear. You've got to have that capacity to think multidimensional. You've got to be able to think a little bit neurodivergent. Like it sometimes helps autism and ADHD, and there's other neurodivergences. Sometimes you will end up being able to analyse things in a multidimensional way, and it's sometimes very helpful to be able to do that, to step outside of the box of normal and start thinking a little bit differently, because you make connections that other people never would. This is one of the things with ADHD. I'm only speaking about it because I'm awaiting a diagnosis. And I know I'm not normal. I'm neurodivergent in some way or another. I definitely know that, because I don't think like the majority of people. But sometimes that helps. Sometimes that's it can be a weakness, but it can also be a great gift. It just depends how you employ it. You've just got to find a way to use that as a gift, as an opportunity instead of a threat, as a strength instead of a weakness. It's not always easy to do, because the world batters us into being submitting to normal that we can't be, and it wants us to get on their wavelength, which neurodivergent people can't always do and be. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people that listen to me will be neurodivergent, or certainly on a certain spectrum in one way or another, because like is drawn towards like. It's like water molecules that attract to water, but they're repelled by air. That's why water stays as water and air stays as air. It's water molecules have a much stronger bond with other water molecules, and air has a much stronger bond to air. So that's where the separation comes in, isn't it? So people who think alike usually drawn together. It's just a natural bond that you have and you develop. Right, so Metatron, the grid through which chaos is maintained. I hope you're getting excited. I'm excited thinking along these lines, because it's like it's ordering the chaos in a way that we can actually visualise. And then when we see that guy do the 3D Sudoku puzzle, he did it in 2 hours and a bit, 2.5 hours, 2 hours 40 minutes almost. You think God's such a hope for us. All we need to do is work through the things that we've got, and eventually we'll plug in the numbers and get them right. And guess what? Hey ho, we're out of this chaos and we're into messianic levels of revelation instead. So serpent is the power to increase entropy. Falsehood, Sheker, 600. Sheker comes to 600. 3 letters of Sheker. Mashiach is the power to collapse uncertainty by ordering chaos, or by just working through the puzzle, right? You've got what's called probability. You've got to eliminate the probability and get it to a place of certainty. But if you put something to a place of certainty before you've actually got the right amount of evidence to collapse that particular square and call it certain, then you're in a big problem. Why are you in a big problem? Because you're going to be, this is certainty, when it's not. It's a bigger lie than anything. It's like saying, we have the only truth. No, you haven't. In amongst that, there's lies. We have got the only word of God. No, you haven't. So you've got to, so you understand, whilst it's like that square, it could be a 2 or a 4, there's a probability involved in that. But if you say, well, it's definitely a 5, when it's not, you haven't got enough evidence to certainly say that that's a 5, but you put a 5 in there, you're going to throw the entire thing out. That's why we've got to it can be dangerous, to be so certain when we haven't got sufficient evidence to be certain, unless you've done the actual groundwork around it to get to a place of certainty. You've put in the hard work, in other words. The solve grid. So the Mashiach is the solved grid that reveals the unity and order and certainty. So when you do all that hard work to wrestle with all this Sheker and uncertainty, chaos, entropy, you're going to get to that place, messianic levels of consciousness. Get this. What is Mashiach then? If Metatron is the matrix, what is Mashiach? Is the same matrix, but filled out. Is the same serpent, but filled out. The matrix is basically code name for how does God, who's absolutely spiritual, relate to us that's physical? How does pure spirituality come into physical reality? Okay, through the matrix, what we would call the matrix, the curtain, the veil. It's an interface, isn't it, between pure spirituality and physicality, and this pure spirituality desires to infuse physical reality more and more, to dwell within physical reality more and more. How does it do that? Well, you start with this grid that's full of chaos, but you collapse it more through your hard work to reveal the underlying unity, solve this grid, and suddenly the Metatron becomes the Mashiach. The serpent becomes the Mashiach. It's just a level. What level of solve have you reached? How many problems have you solved? How much observations have you made accurately. Depends on, and then you start to see the unity. Well, I had to look here, here and here, and it all came together in one beautiful 5-dimensional glorious reality. And so Metatron becomes Mashiach. Metatron is Mashiach, but different levels. Okay. And then you've got these 3 names. This is, so we've got a triple again. I've pulled this out because we're dealing with Sheker. We've got to overcome Sheker to reveal Emeth, truth. So we've got these 3 names. Elohim, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh Elohim, which is the unity. Elohim represents earth. The unity between heaven and earth. Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh represent heaven, Elohim represent earth, so that's that name there. And then you've got this final revelation of the name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh Shalom, which the sages say this is an actual name. It's taken from the book of Judges. Okay, I think it's Judges 6:24, but it mentions Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh Shalom. I think it is. I'm talking out from memory now, and it were a long time ago that I came. I just pulled this out from a long time ago. It were a meditation that I did, and I just thought it's relevant. But so these 3 names that represent again those 3 aspects of Mashiach, if we like. We start off at Elohim, which is judgment. So you start off, and Moshe's called Metatron Sa Ha'olam. Why is he called that? Because the sages say Metatron Sa Ha'olam, the initial letters are Moshe. So it's connected to the concept of Elohim, okay, and judgment. And when that matrix grid is not fully filled out, where the Sudoku grid is not, there's a lot of judgment. The waves are still not collapsed. There's a lot of uncertainty. And we haven't learned to ride the waves properly. Sorry for that, but I hope you're catching what I mean. And then with Mashiach ben Yosef, you've got this unity between heaven and earth, between Tifereth and Malkuth, a Yesod in between. So you've got Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh Elohim, 112. But then finally, Mashiach ben David is associated with the vessel, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, and the vessel of Shalom. So the light of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh fitting perfectly within the vessel of Shalom, unity between the divine male and the divine female. And the to be Shalom. King David is all about Shalom. Mashiach ben David is all about Shalom. Add them all up together, what you get? 600. So you get the Trinity again, overcoming Sheker. Then there's 3 aspects to man's creation that we can see in the Torah. Okay, and we're able to perceive through, reading between the lines in certain. This is a meditation, you've got to understand, but it's a meditation based on observing and looking at what is before us. So first of all, you've got Moshe, which represents God creates man. So God creates man and woman together, back to back. So we're in this state up here. We're in a back-to-back relationship. We've been created, but there's still a lot of, still under tree of knowledge, influence, still then the possibility of good and evil, uncertainty, chaos and entropy, when there's only really order. There's only really order and certainty, but we haven't revealed that yet. So we're stuck in this stage, unresolved Sudoku grid. Man is then rectified through the commandments as revealed to Moshe. Moshe is true and his Torah is true. And then this leads us on to the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef, this Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh Elohim, who unites heaven and earth together. So this is when Yeshua, this represents Yeshua, Mashiach ben Yosef, is this name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh Elohim. He creates woman from man. They are separate but face to back. So there's been progress. So there's progress, isn't there? They're now separate. They weren't formed together. When they were formed together, Adam's first wife was what we call Lilith. So here we've got actually Adam and Eve. This relates to the 2 accounts of creation. Okay, that's in the book of Genesis. So this is the next stage of creation, but you're still face to back. You're not fully face to face. So the woman is Eve, and the Eve is healed through kindness, chesed. This brings the woman joy and raises her up from a fallen state. So at this is still in a fallen state. The fallen state is Yod-Heh-Wav Shalom creates man from woman. Basically, you've got this concept of the shattering of the vessels. The vessels represent the divine feminine, by the way. So you've got this concept. We're in a state of tikkun olam, where we're rectifying, we're gathering all the holy lost sparks. This is the job of Mashiach, to gather in the holy lost sparks and to build a fitting vessel where the light of the name Yod-Heh-Wav can fit in. The light of Yod-Heh-Wav in vessels of shalom. Where do we get the vessels of shalom from? Esav. Esav and Shalom have got the same gematria, 376. I've talked about this a lot. So when I'm saying Yod-Heh-Wav Shalom creates man from a woman, I'm saying rectified Adam, which is Mashiach ben Yosef, from all the lost holy sparks, that was the shattered vessels, and the vessel represent the divine feminine, i.e. the whole. In terms of binary, that would be the 0, the man's represented by the 1. Okay, or the whole and the whole filler, to be precise. You know, the light and the vessel, the man and the woman. We see that in physical reality. The man is the whole filler, the woman is the whole, the nukva. And unites them face to face. Man and woman is healed and made face to face in love and joy. So they're your two wings, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. And the body of the bird is Moshe. So there's a lot involved in that. These are just things, inspirations that I've got when I see these numbers and I'm thinking about in these terms. That's where it leads me to think. And when I see these 3 names adding up, I'm thinking, what can these 3 names possibly reflect in terms of what we finally trying to achieve? Well, we're trying to achieve rectified Adam. So we've got to look, well, what came before rectified Adam then? Well, you know, we've got 2 accounts of man's creation, man and woman created together, and then we've got on the same day together, and then we've got this second account where woman is created from woman is created from Adam, is put to sleep, his rib taken out. So we've got this second version of creation. So if we've got this name, then Yod-Heh-Wav Shalom, that's going to add up to be equivalent to Sheker. What could that mean then? We know Shalom is related to the concept of the vessel, and we know Yod-Heh-Wav is related to the man. So it must be that the man is created from the woman. Rectified man is finally created from the woman, that which is symbolic of the lost holy sparks after the shattering of the vessels. And then when we've created that vessel of shalom, then we can receive that divine revelation from above. I talked about that a lot. Right, so back to this then. Let's fly through this quite quickly. So we've got the 3 again, Yeshua, Sahapanim, Metatron, Eliyahu, and I hope I've explained a little bit what that's all about, or potentially what it's all about. Let's hope there's no sheker in this. We don't need any more, do we? Right, come now, let us debate, says the Lord. So this number comes to 3 times 479. So this is, I've always said this is related to my, it's come now, let us reason together. You know, this is so important for us to reason together, to not just think that we have the truth. There's got to be some debate, there's got to be some analysis, there's got to be some reasoning to help us to get to that place where we've got to get to a place of unity. And that comes to 479. 643 is it Od Yosef Chai? Pretty sure it is. Yosef is still alive. 600. It's a very significant number. I'm just tired now. And he sent and brought him. So this is King David. Was sent and brought him. Yishlach Viehu. 1 Samuel 16:12. And that comes to 479. 91 is Yod-Heh-Wav Adonai. So that's that's heaven and earth again united. And then you've got, and he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the ground, and its top reached to heaven. So again, this is the matrix. This is Metatron, who's called the ladder in the Zohar. We've got, and all the exilic angels running up and down, you know, all the exiles. We've got to overcome all those exilic forces to reveal the truth. What's the truth? Well, it's at the top of the ladder. It's the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. We've got to attain that level of consciousness. We've got to battle with all this confusion and all this exile and all this sheker to get to the top of the ladder. We've got to collapse all those wave functions, all that entropy down to reveal the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. And as we can see, this is 6 times 479, or 2 times this up here. We've got to understand we've got a goal. The goal is not the ladder, the goal is at the top of the ladder. But why have you stolen my gods? So this was spoken to Yaakov by Lavan. Okay? It comes to a square ordinal of 1686, which is exactly the same as the regular and ordinal. There's loads of other things that I can go on, but I'm going to limit it now because we're running out of time. However, what are these gods that have been stolen? 1880. They were stolen, by the way. There's a lot of truth in that. That the sons of the nobles saw the daughters of man. So filled, this comes to 3,660, which is 2 times 1,808 related to that. That the nobles, the sons of the nobles, the Nephilim, and the daughters of man, when they were beautifying themselves, and they took for themselves wives from whomever they chose. So this is some kind of unnatural thing that went on that caused a lot of problems. It's related to somehow Yaakov and these gods that were stolen, that resulted in Nukva, Rachel's death, Yosef's mother's death. And then this is a concept of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh Katan, Hakatan, the little Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, which is Metatron. It's a name for Metatron. What is Metatron? Well, it's an immature state of awareness, isn't it? Consciousness, where we're not conscious of the whole truth. There's a lot of chaos in that system still. 904, it's related up here. This is the thing that we settle for. We settle for metatronic states. We settle for unsolved puzzles. We settle for, well, our bit looks right. Okay, that's where you're at. Some of us are not satisfied with that. We want something more. We want to reveal Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, nothing else beside him. We're not going to settle for our little corner being right, thanks. We don't want to live in that delusion. So it or he has gathered them. This comes to Miss Pagadol of 904. This is who Kabat-San, who is gathering them in, gathering the lost holy sparks, gathering the lost house of Yosef. Okay, it's very much connected to the work of Mashiach ben Yosef. This number here, which is this number and this number, with the Mispar Gadol regular and ordinal and the regular and ordinal added together come to 1,299, which is 3 times 433. That's a significant number, but one of them is Galut, exile. We're in exile doing what? Gathering those holy lost sparks to build that vessel of Shalom so that we can receive that light. And at that point, you see all that entropy, you see all those waves of judgment, it's over. We've got Shalom. The messianic kingdom of David is on earth as it is in heaven. And not abolished or replaced. This is the righteous, is not abolished. Okay, you could go look that up, Isaiah 51:6, if you do so desire. 904. Lo Tachath. Okay, so Tachath is the word to describe Mashiach ben Yosef, who was Tachath Beno instead of his son. He was the ram of the Akedah. He was the ram that was instead of Yitzhak. So that word Tachath is related to that ram. It's going to make a provision. It's a provision that allows Yod-Heh-Waw, who is totally spiritual, to come down on earth and dwell with us. He wants to come Tachath, below. It's the same word. Replaced instead below. Okay? So Tachath. Yod-Heh-Waw desires to dwell Tachath, below with us. And he made a provision, a replacement of Yitzchak with his own Yechidah, who was Mashiach ben Yosef. So it's all related again to Mashiach ben Yosef. And with that, I will say shalom. Please share and subscribe.